Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of
Not fighting.
And as you can tell, we are in a different area of our home now.
Yes, we kind of got tired of the dog always interrupting us. And although I love Cash and he's the sweetest, cutest thing, he's kind of a wild animal and he is hard to control.
Yeah, and actually, if you're like, man, I really like that podcast, but the interruptions with the dogs are like really ruin it for me, us too. So we've been trying to solve that.
Yeah.
Although I do feel weird about the fact that like our dog has pushed us like we're upstairs now and like basically hiding from him.
Yeah, he runs the downstairs. That's
like a wolf.
No, he it's really hard to like stay in your like train of thought when I have like this dog like biting my hand or barking or licking the window.
And it's kind of like whenever you're like trying to pass a guard, but people keep like putting in lassos or like spider hooks or.
You're like, stop doing that. Let me pass your guard.
Yeah, that's how I feel about all lapel things ever. Because I'm like, I could pass right now if it wasn't for the fact that you got my shirt sleeve between my legs.
Yeah, isn't that the whole point?
Yeah. I say it too, like, as if I'm like, stupid sleeves. If everything was just NOGi, I'd prefer gi. I know you like them both.
I'm like wanting to train more NOGi because it's just easier on my hands, my fingers.
Yeah, that's true. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, we have, but like it's like I need the NOGi season to like let my arthritis like be better, get a break in my fingers.
You know, I think that's a debate maybe for another day, but we should write this one down. But I mean, like, I think the divergence between gi and NOGi. Yeah, you're gonna write it down.
I'm taking notes, okay?
You can maybe our listeners at home take notes too. But here's a good one.
Do you think so?
No, I doubt it. God, if you are, if you are, I mean, you don't need to.
It's true.
Trust me.
It's true.
But no, the gi NOGi debate. I think one of the things that was always like kind of bums me out about it is that I really like them both, and I actually think it's bad whenever they start becoming more and more separate.
You do?
Yeah, I don't like.
But I think that there's like I think. Well, yeah, because I think they're becoming two separate sports at this point.
Yes, and I don't want that.
But we've already have too much separation within the grappling world, right? Like, because like even, well, I don't know. Are we just going to talk about this instead? Because we can.
No. We can talk about it a different day.
It's kind of relevant, like, with this, like, flow grappler versus wrestler thing. Which I really don't understand.
I don't understand.
Because I feel like
either.
It's very.
All right, that's it. We changed the episode right now. We just changed it.
We're moving on.
All right, we're going gi versus NOGi. That's the name of this episode. We changed it right here, right now, due to audience demand. You demanded it. You asked for it, and that's what we gave you.
Yes.
So sit through and listen to this thing that we have not thought through at all.
Nah, we're good.
All my opinions will be strong.
Isn't that how we do everything anyway?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, what I was saying, no, I don't understand, like, this, like, a wrestler versus grappler. It's, like, kind of funny to me, because I'm like, aren't wrestlers grapplers, too? Wouldn't you say that they are?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no,
like, so,
I mean, like, I think, yeah, before grappling, yes. Just yes.
Right? But, so, I'm just very confused, because it seems very, like, in your face, like, we have to decide who's better, and I'm like, if they were all together as one thing, they could be, and it would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and I think that there maybe is kind of a debate here, but I will say this, like, throughout my entire grappling career, whenever I've dealt with people that are high-level wrestlers and, like, trained with them or whatever, it hasn't been a rivalry. Like, it hasn't been like
No.
Like, they don't think that I think that I can take them down, which I don't think that.
No.
And we're talking about like really, really good wrestlers.
Yeah.
And or in wrestling rules particularly. And then when we like actually get into submissions, like sometimes I'm like, hey, no, just hold on, like don't tap quite yet, because they're just being so like they're like,
I know you caught me.
They're just
like,
very humble because they've been like grappling their whole life.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a certain amount of this that's kind of just manufactured. And
yes,
in an ingenuine
but
way.
I think like for me it's like, okay, no, like it doesn't have to be us versus them or this versus that. It's like it's a very cohesive thing. Like I train specific wrestling stuff because I want to get better takedowns for Nogi, and I want to get better in that aspect of my game. And then also, you know, I don't know what it was out of the last time, but there, yeah, it's better.
You like to train them both.
I like training both.
And
I like training both.
I think, you know, staying on the wrestler versus grappler debate, because we can go a lot of different directions with this now that I'm thinking through it more.
Okay.
But the, you know, you and I both said the exact same thing, because I think Gordon Ryan, maybe somebody else, had shared something about, like, oh, who wins in an MMA
no,
fight?
because it was on Flow too. They were posting all these things where it's like, it was like these, like, whatever high-level wrestlers versus a jiu-jitsu guy. And it's like, who wins in an MMA fight? And I'm like, well, now we're talking about a different thing. I thought it was, because, like, if it's not MMA, then it's grappling, right?
Yeah.
So we can't say grappler or grappling because it's not wrestling. We have to say MMA, where you mix everything together. And then at that point, it's who has better striking.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you and I both said the exact same thing, which is, like, you start thinking it through, and you're like, well, the wrestler can probably nullify the jiu-jitsu guy's takedown, right? So if he doesn't want to get taken down, he can probably keep it from being the ground. Like,
yeah.
You know, you could try your heel hooks and, all, you know, like Imanari rolls and stuff, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it's true.
And then if you're the jiu-jitsu guy or whatever, and the wrestler decides he wants to take you down, like, you're probably cool with that. The wrestler's probably like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So then it just comes down to, like, which guy is, like, more, has any kind of stand-up training or, you know, whatever. Or they're just going to be winging punches and whoever lands. But, yeah, it just doesn't make any, like, that's a weird debate to me. It's like LeBron James, Odell Beckham. Who wins in
bowling?
I was trying to think through sports that, like, one of them would have a clear advantage.
No.
Volleyball, wait. I mean,
God.
I guess it's not inherent that LeBron James would have an advantage in volleyball, but
he's taller.
I mean, that's another episode we can do. No, but so I don't know. It's a weird debate, and I feel like Flow kind of artificially created it because it's Flow wrestling versus Flow grappling.
Yeah,
like
I understand the where it came from, but I feel like.
But I also feel like it'd be
I feel like you could have a better conversation about it.
But I feel like if we started a second podcast and then we started talking shit on our first podcast, and we were just like, nah.
Yeah, like that's something I don't understand either. It's like you're all of these things, and like, are they gonna like start calling out like they're like bad men? Do they have that? I don't know. Like, I know Flow has like the Flow people have like a lot of different sports. I don't know which ones, but
badminton versus tennis and like a ping pong match though. Like, it's a great equalizer.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
We should start doing that. People picking people from slightly similar sports and to a slightly different, but also completely like obscure sport.
You could say like a jiu-jitsu versus judo in wrestling. Like wrestling rules, you know? Like, okay.
They both get disqualified. That is a good one. We don't need to go through
No, we don't have to go through all of this anymore.
But, I mean, like, kind of the original premise, like the gi versus no gi, I don't like them being more divided. From the standpoint of, you know, it kind of goes back to something I think I said in the last... No, not at all. No. I mean, quite the opposite, where it's like...
I'm teasing.
I think, you know, like, that's part of, like, being a good quote-unquote grappler, is that, like, you can kind of transition your grappling to whatever rule set, but realistically, like, I don't think about it in terms of rule set. Like, I've always, like, I mean, I guess I originally started MMA, but it's like, I want to be able to be good at grappling, whether I'm in the street, I'm in the cage, like, I'm rolling around with somebody else to, like, see who can, like, stay conscious the longest. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, I want to be good for wrestling. I want my wrestling to be good for wrestling. I want my judo to be good for judo. Like, I don't know, to me, it's like, I want to be a master of quote-unquote grappling.
Why aren't you training those other things? You just trained jiu-jitsu.
Because I have no ACLs anymore because I was trying too hard.
This is true.
I do enjoy all those other things, though, a lot.
I mean, I do think, you know, something that's kind of like on the same vein is like, just with this grappling thing is like the whole ADCC. Because I think ADCC is like where all of those things get kind of combined, because I think a lot of times people look at ADCC as another, like, jiu-jitsu, like a no-gi tournament. Like, that's, like, kind of the thought amongst the jiu-jitsu community, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But but it's not. Like, the rule set is not, like, meant for like like jujitsu no-gi rules.
No.
It's definitely kind of a combination of just all grappling, and it's kind of its own thing. Because when you're like, for me, like, training for that, it's like, I think I realized that, like, after when the trials was, I was like, oh, this isn't, like, just jujitsu.
Yeah, the takedown.
Like, this isn't no-gi.
Being able to get takedowns, like, is rewarded so much more, or not rewarded necessarily so much more,
but
you
it's
just
so
get
penalized for, like, just trying to flop to your back.
Yeah, like it's the rules are just designed in a way that it's such an advantage to be able to dictate the takedowns and who's on the ground and stuff in a way that all jiu-jitsu is not.
You see all of, like, the people who are, you know, traditional, like, like, jiu-jitsu is, like, their roots. Like, they definitely, like, game the system and try and just, you know, fake a shot to pull guard, or, you know, that kind of thing. So there's ways around that kind of a thing. But for me, when I train no-gi, I'd rather be on top than play my guard anyway. That's just, like, my preference.
And,
So,
you know, like, what's nice about it, and, like, how you can see just how, I would say, good of a job they do at, like, mixing those things, is there's a whole breed of grappler out there where they just want to be on the bottom and go for leg locks, you know? And I would say, like, both of those strategies of the person that wants to get the takedown and be on top versus the leg lock person are, like, equally rewarded, and you can see people that have been successful.
Yeah, and you see, like, the success on both. So I think, I don't know.
The only thing that I dislike is I'd love to see the finals rules, like the no guard pulling, be applied to all levels of the tournament.
Yeah, like, at every level. It is weird that the finals is, like, longer, and also, that role is different.
I'd like to see all of them be shorter too.
Yeah. Honestly, this is something, and this is kind of, like, a little bit off topic, but, well, kind of, but for me,
that's the theme of this episode.
You know, we're just talking about whatever today, but I think
that should be the title. We're just talking about whatever today.
Okay. But I think that I think it'd be really cool to see more jiu-jitsu match tournaments or things like that, where it's like you have the rounds, kind of like wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's just, I mean, I guess we're talking more wrestling and grappling, like, things today, but you know, they have that where it's like you're doing these short, like, rounds, but you get, like, 3 rounds, you know, and it's cool because I think you push the pace, you give it a little bit more action, which I think in all these different formats of tournaments you can have, whether it's, like, longer, like, no time limits, sub only, you know, there's where we have a time limit, it's sub only, but then, like, we have judges or whatever. It's like all those things. I think the intention of that is to make it more exciting and more consumable to the average human who doesn't follow the sport. But I don't think that it actually does that in any vein. I don't think that people, and I don't know that adding the, you know, having time limits and, like, rounds would do that either, but I think it'd be cool to try.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of things that jiu-jitsu, like, traditionally, like, what we think of as, like, Brazilian jiu-jitsu or whatever, which there's not many,
I think we should just talk to Sean Fowler and have him, like, get this going for us.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, I you know, like, that was the idea behind the original EBI overtime style rules, was that it's going to be like wrestling where you start, like, you know.
Yeah.
In the turtle. But, like, I actually think that you could do something like that with jiu-jitsu too, where you basically start people in either side control or something like that after the first round, and you actually do give points for escapes or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's very anti-jiu-jitsu to give points for escapes, but you know, a lot of other grappling sports do
that. Yeah.
Do variations of things like that. But, you know, I will say this: like, watching both judo and wrestling is more exciting than watching jiu-jitsu matches a lot of times, and it's just because of the periods and stuff.
Yeah, I think everybody's like, oh, no time limits, like, we're gonna, you know, sub only. It's the idea is that it's gonna make it more exciting, and because people are gonna fight for the submission, but they don't. They're fighting to not get submitted more than anything. I think so. There's, like, a more cautious approach from the general public of competitors,
and I think
whatever.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm afraid by these things getting more far apart, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with a gi versus like whatever no-gi is or whatever other forms of grappling. Because what happens is there's so much you can learn for training all the different types and really the types of people that you'll train with too. You know, like to pick on one particular school, not pick on really, but just like point out like, you know, if you roll with somebody that's a 10th planet person, traditional, like everybody's different from every school or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, you know, you may come from a background or lineage or dynamic where like passing the guard is like the most important thing, you know? Yeah. But you might roll no-gi and roll somebody from 10th planet and they're like, hey, that's fine, you can pass my guard as many times as you want. Like I'm going to catch you in something here. And, you know, like that's all well and dandy until you get caught in the submission. And ultimately, like, I don't care what rule set you're doing or if you're not even training for a rule set in general, if you just want to be a good grappler, like, good grapplers don't get submitted, you know? Yeah. And so, like, if you're not training, like, different disciplines and different styles, like, you're going to miss, you know? And I think, you know, a lot of that dynamic comes from the different types of people and styles that you see in one versus the other.
Yeah. I think it's really funny to just talk to to people who are, especially, like, I don't know, the people in the gi, they have such, like, a hate towards no-gi a lot of times. And it's just like, it's like, oh, like pulling teeth to like get people to train no-gi a lot of time. Where I think the more you train it, if you train it like often, it's like it's fun, it's fast paced, it's a little bit different from the normal of like when you have a gi on and people just tying you up and playing like little like point fighting or whatever. And
so I'm gonna ask you a question now, and I'm gonna put you on the spot, and I'm gonna immediately make you polarized to half our audience.
Cool.
So,
I'll go with it.
Question is, in your experience, are people that have only trained gi their entire lives more intimidated by training no-gi, or no-gi people that have never trained gi before more intimidated to train no-gi or gi?
I would say no-gi people hate to put on the gi more than gi people hate to take the gi off. I would say, generally speaking, because a lot of the guys who are the top competitors in no-gi tournaments, they never put a gi on, and they know because they're afraid that they're gonna or they know that they suck, and they'll say, "I suck, I'm terrible without a gi or with the gi on," you know. And like even Gordon Ryan's, like how many times he talked about coming and now I'm gonna put the gi on like after the first ADCC and I'm gonna do it, but have I seen him compete in the gi?
I doubt you will. I think he probably realized pretty quick.
Anyway, I just think, and that's the thing. It's like you realize, but I think the transition, taking your gi off, maybe is like easier to do because with training the gi all the time, you have a lot of different setups and different looks that you can do, but there's things that are just always will be the same. No-gi, you know, there's like the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu are there, gi and no-gi, right? There's things that translate very easily. But the vice versa of that, like gi, or only training no-gi, and then you start training gi, and then people are like doing all this lapel things. There's just so much more, there's more technique, I guess, available with the gi, just because you can get like a lot more creative.
For sure is. I don't think there's any debate.
So it's just, I think that's why it's probably more intimidating to put a gi on when you never train with a gi on.
So I agree with you that theoretically it is, but I don't know that that's the reality sometimes.
No, that's like theory, right? And then
that's what makes sense. Yes. 100% it should, because a no-gi person training in the gi, I think the reason why you don't see maybe like that all no-gi people training gi is just because there's a lack of interest maybe. Like if you've never trained gi before and you're like a purple belt no-gi or something like that, there's probably just a lack of interest, right?
Well, it's kind of the same with the gi, though. I feel like it's probably pretty equal, really, truly, because like we have no-gi classes, but they're not as like popular as
But I feel like the people that are training gi, you have so many opportunities in just a very like friendly setting where you know a lot of people train no-gi might only train at a school that only like has no-gi. But a gi school almost always, like you said, has no-gi classes, and I think that what happens is people start getting afraid, like with the gi. Like you should, like you said,
but I think here's the thing. I think this is the real thing of why people are actually afraid of it. Leg locks. leg locks are, and like traditional gi players are very afraid of leg locks, and I think that's starting to change, but it's this old school thing where leg locks kind of had this like weird connotation
So this is where I'm
of
gonna
being
get.
dirty, and now like that's not really the case. So all these people who have never trained the legs before are now terrified. Like, how many times have we trained with people who are like petrified of getting? It's like you put them in a knee bar and like, hey, like freaking out. I'm like, dude, I didn't even have it on yet. Like, you could have escaped it,
Yeah.
but it's this like fear because it's the fear of the unknown, something
Yeah.
you're not used to.
And I think there's one. So you kind of touched on it. It's old school. Leg locks are dirty. I would say that, and this is like this is probably jaded by my experience. Let me just say this. But Brazilians in general, like as a people, if you started training in Brazil, and specifically if you're Brazilian, I would say in general have that more kind of like, I don't want to go no-gi. It's very foreign, and I think the same perception where it's like it's a leg lock.
But it's kind of funny because if you like think about all the like the original like Gracie stuff, it's like all this like Vale Tudo stuff is where they were like really testing out their jiu-jitsu. It's like it's all no-gi that they were doing, like testing their stuff, right? Like Hickson fighting on the beach and all that like stuff. It's like you don't have a gi on for that, so I know that, and then I know that they would wear their gi even in a like
sometimes
fight, sometimes, but not all the time. Yeah, I guess just hoist, right?
They would sometimes, and wouldn't sometimes. Yeah. It feels like a very strategic thing.
Probably.
I mean, sometimes like if you're like, Tyler, this guy doesn't know jiu-jitsu. Can you beat him up? I'd be like, yes. And then they're like, he's a 230-pound boxer. I'd be like, I'm gonna take the gi top off. Like, I want to move fast.
I don't want him to hold me.
But no, I think that like one of the things you brought up is just how it's kind of weird because of the kind of the roots and stuff. But I actually think part of the leg lock fear maybe is from the fact that leg locks weren't really good until I don't know, maybe the last decade or so.
Yeah, well, just inside this sport, right?
No, I think just in general.
What about Sambo people?
I know, and I don't think they were actually like those leg locks actually worked very well until like they had a chance to like be applied to jiu-jitsu grapplers, and people that were decent at leg locks actually learned how to like not get destroyed by regular grappling, like a la ADCC basically.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't see the early days of ADCC people getting like their legs blown up.
What about Paul Harris?
That's recent. That's
recent,
really recent.
Yeah,
like you go back to the days whenever you had like Mark Kerr and stuff.
It's just like when you watch something and it looks like it's 40 years old because like technology has gotten so much better. So I'm like, why is it so blurry?
Well, this most recent ADCC just like blew everything else out of the water
true.
In terms of production.
Well, yeah.
Shout out to Seth Daniels. But one of the biggest things I think with the gi versus no gi, just kind of like fear maybe that occurs on both sides, is just feeling like you're unprepared to do the other thing, like you don't know enough. And to me, that's the whole reason why I kind of like just made that throwaway comment at the beginning about like I don't want to see them get further apart, because that's the whole thing is like I feel like at any like if I told you recently like I took the gi off, was like just helping a couple guys that were getting ready for some no-gi stuff, and I hate just training no-gi like just once in a while. Like I want to do it consistently because it makes my gi better and vice versa. But realistically, like you get out of practice, and if you're only training no-gi like once a week, once every other week, like you just won't be you won't be sharp. The game has to change from one to the other.
Yeah, there's definitely you're not playing the same way. You're not playing spider or lasso or like even the normal like traditional deli hiva like style things without the gi. So you definitely do have to like change your game up a little bit when you're playing no gi. And I love training both, because training no gi makes my gi sharper because you have to be tighter and more controlled. Like because there's so much wiggle room. Like it's easy for people to slip in and out of things without the gi on. So you get kind of lazy and like rely on certain grips and things in the gi. So I think that's like no-gi keeps you honest a little bit and sharp.
Even grips that you might not even realize are making things stronger. Like I was talking to somebody the other day about like gi versus no-gi, and in the gi you can wrap your legs around people because you can hold their posture with your hands, you know?
Yeah.
You can't do that no-gi, so you have to wrap your arms around people. And one of the things that you think about with that is like butterfly, right? Like you get underhooks or over-unders or whatever. Like in the gi, what do you grab? Like it's hard to get your hands together, so you grab the belt, you grab the lapel around their back, and that makes it really, really strong.
Yeah.
No-gi, that grip is basically, it's a shove away from them just being on their feet. And so, like, that's the little kind of stuff that you don't realize, like, has to translate.
Yeah.
And it'll make you better at both if you, maybe you're in the gi and you can't get a great grip. Like, then you go to the no-gi style.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, I feel like I wind up teaching, like, when I'm teaching, I'll be like, you know, this is really good no-gi too, or this, like, you can do this, like, and I'll show, like, the variation of grips of how things will, like, translate from both. But, you know, some just don't translate at all, right? But I think it's just kind of nice, like, to have that. And that's how I'm thinking about, like, in my head a lot more recently. This is very, like, recent to me. I'm the person who before just like, I don't want to take the gi off, like, because I feel weird and awkward. But I would actually started doing it a lot more, like, right before I moved to San Diego, because I just liked to train wrestling with some of the guys at the academy because it was fun. I don't know.
But what do you? So I have a debate question for you again. So
okay. Hit me.
There's two things that I would say are like these like halfway points that are both not annoying is not the right word. They just kind of like muddy the water a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the first one is wearing gi pants, training no gi. So I know that there's certain like it's basically allowed in a lot of tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean,
doesn't Eddie Bravo always do that?
Yeah, he used to always be a proponent of it because he liked it for rubber guard, like better grip.
It'd be a lot easier to hold.
Probably the lockdown, and I think half guard was like a big point too because he's big in half guard and stuff. You can like obviously the pants and half guard
slide out like they do in no-gi.
And but then there became this debate about like the rules for things like that, where it's like if you wear pants no-gi, then you can grab them, but you can't grab shorts.
You can't grab grappling shorts. Why could you grab gi pants?
It's like a weird one that we just like let through.
I always, if that happens, like this has been happening a lot in like comp class with, you know, somebody's doing a no-gi tournament, but we're training primarily in the gi. So you just take your gi top off and you spar that way. And I'm always conscious about not making those grips because I think, you know, most of the time, like you're not going to have that advantage if you're fighting without the gi. And like they're not going to be wearing pants if you're fighting without the gi most of the time. So it definitely kind of still cheats it.
Yeah. I mean, I find it really hard, like a lot of times, even just training no-gi, if somebody does have gi pants on, to not grab the pants.
Yeah, it's
or
hard.
Use them because sometimes you put your hand and it's like, I want to actually like contour my hand. Sorry for those that are just listening. I'm making like a claw. Anyways, you'll want to make like that, but like the cloth on the pants like moves around too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're like, well, I can grab, but I'm not supposed to grab. But like, it's actually like a disadvantage to not.
I want to grab like inside the back of the pants and hold on to it.
Yeah,
that's a good grip.
That's a good grip. But like, I think that's a weird one. But I would say even weirder is whenever somebody wears a gi top and no pants. Or like just wears like grappling shorts, which
I've never had that happen to me. So
I feel like this experience is unique to me in a very small segment of our audience.
He already talked a lot of crap on Sambo, and now he's like just wants to be a Sambo guy.
Well, when I first started training, like our instructor just allowed it.
So mad at you.
It was like like in the summer that was just like a thing. He's like, oh, it's hot. You don't wear pants. You just wear a gi top and some grappling shorts. And then like
you need to be able to do your chokes.
And then after a while, you're like, it's a lot easier whenever I just wear shorts and a gi top.
Yeah.
And it's not as hot. And then all of a sudden, whenever you start putting gi pants back on, you're like, man, why do I feel like I suck so much more when I have these pants on? It's like, yeah, because people can't grab your legs and hold them.
Yes. Yeah, I mean that's definitely. I feel like I don't know. Do you get more annoyed with people like tying your sleeves up or your pants? Like, which one's harder grips to break, do you think? That's kind of a weird question.
I mean, on the top, if I'm on top, I'd rather not wear a gi top because the lapels from the top are going to be way more difficult. But on the bottom, I'd rather not wear pants because then you're going to grab my pants and use the pass.
I get that. That makes sense. It's not really
I'm trying to think like...
It's not really a debate.
Yeah.
I mean on bottom having pants on, too, or on top having pants on, like they can hold up the pant
The
grip.
De La Riva grip. That's
Yeah.
the only thing is
Yeah.
I was thinking with the pant grip. Sorry for those that are like white belts and are like, am I supposed to be grabbing the pants in De La Riva?
I mean, yeah.
Sometimes. I don't know. To be honest, that I feel like the more I do jiu-jitsu, the more I'm like, I don't know. Like the other day, Professor Johnny, when we were doing the class, he just like said something about I can't remember what he said. No, that shows.
Wow, it was like transcendent apparently.
Isn't that jiu-jitsu? But like, no, he just like brought up some like little detail about something like as he was just showing a drill for us to do, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm glad he said that thing about whatever it was.
Oh, I remember you because you pointed it out to me. We were drilling together.
Yeah. It was in the drill whenever we bring the elbow inside to a single leg or something. Anyways, I was like, oh, I'm glad he brought up that detail because I'm not sure what I do every time. I'm sure I do that sometimes, but it's nice to hear somebody say like you should do that because then you just like put it in your mind and then you don't have to think about it.
Yeah,
if there's something that you're doing and you're like, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, and if somebody was to ask you why, you'd be like, I don't know, feels right, you know?
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, always do this because whatever. And then you're just like, oh, cool, I won't think about that one. It'll just be automatic now.
Yeah, I think that's true.
That's why I love having a really good black belt, like instructor or somebody that I trust, validate the things that I like already
do. Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes the questioning out of it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just having that and also just having like people to kind of like workshop that with, like even if you're like
workshopping.
I
just want to workshop some lapel stuff here.
But you try it out and you're like, okay, like when you're like, that's why I love positional sparring because I think it's one of the ways that you can really like you're gonna put yourself in a position to fail a whole bunch and then like start to succeed because you're gonna realize, okay, they're gonna do this and this if I do this, and like you have like the answers, you can start to go down the line of like your ABC.
Yeah. And I think that's something that people avoid a lot of times in the same way they avoid gi and no-gi.
Yes.
It's because you know that there's going to be some things here that are very unknown, and jiu-jitsu is uncomfortable to start with. You know, like if you're, I mean, unless you're, I don't know, a very small handful of people, you're still trying to get good at this stuff. I mean, even me today, I'm still trying to get good at jiu-jitsu. And it's like, you mean you want me to make it harder by trying to learn, like, more stuff or, like, get better at the stuff that I suck at?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you got to have a certain amount of that in you to be progressing in jiu-jitsu. But beyond that, it's like, man, I already kind of suck. Like, do I need to, like, expose myself to, like, this much more sucking? And the truth is like, if you want to be really good, probably.
I realized the other day that I need to be sparring out of bad positions more often.
Yeah. It takes so much energy.
Yeah, it's a lot harder, and it's just like, I feel like I'm either training with people, like, it's not that I'm not getting beat in class, because it's definitely happening, but I'm training with, like, the people who are beating me are, like, bigger, stronger guys most of the time, and then if they're, like, put me in a real bad position, like, sometimes, like, they're gonna take their weight off of me or something, and then I can recover easy instead of, like, making me fight out of positions that, is a lot more work if you're with somebody that's just like, no, you're not moving.
Yeah, and I would say too, like, that is another difference between gi and no-gi. I would say no-gi, it is easier to get out of bad positions.
It's true.
Because somebody can't hold you. I mean,
also when you get sweaty. I
mean, one of the worst feelings in the world is being in side control in the gi and just feeling like the person's like almost kind of getting back and then having the person like staple your pants to the mat or like lift up on your shoulder a lapel and like you get pulled back
like,
flat. And you're like, I was on my side. I was almost out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super annoying when you're just like, you're like, they're using the gi to like pin you somewhere and you're like,
I mean, it can be that way.
Especially when you think you're free.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
That is like one of the most helpless feelings in jiu-jitsu.
But also I love doing it to people.
Yeah, it's true. I've doled out a lot of them. Also taken a lot of them.
I've given a lot to him.
Yeah, it's true. She almost put me unconscious again the other day, but not in the garage, so no need to call the cops.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, it was close. I was real close.
I don't know. I was like worried because I was like, am I hurting him? Did I hurt your neck or something?
Oh, it was from
That's
the
super
darts
tight.
with the gi on. Huh.
I know.
This is why you train both.
Yep. I start darsing a lot more when I've been training nogi.
Mm-hmm.
You see a lot more opportunities for those things.
Yep. And I think that summarizes the topic that we were very unprepared to talk about.
But I feel like we're always prepared for it because we do this every day. These are things.
If you're like, oh man, they make it look easy. Because it is, baby. So easy. This is so easy.
Yeah. Very.
Everybody should have a podcast.
I mean, doesn't everybody?
I feel like everybody does.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody does. Sometimes I'm like, are we part of the problem? Anyways, thanks for watching. And if you do like the podcast, if you can leave reviews or share it with like 5 relatives, softball coaches of the past, anybody, if you're involved in a pyramid scheme or something like that.
Definitely let those people know.
Yeah, they're going to be in.
Yeah, they'll spread it.
Yep. Also, like, just tell them it costs $5 to watch it, and then you keep $3 of those dollars, send us the other 2, baby.
Yeah.
$1 each. We're all in this. Now it's an enterprise. Now we're all tangled up together. I know a tax guy. Anyways, I'm getting down a line that we didn't mean to get down, but we just want to say thanks for watching, and if you can, leave a review, and thanks for sharing and helping us grow. Anything else, Jen?
No, we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.